A very good morning. My name is Malcolm Graham Wood, and I'm on Core Finance TV for my CEO interview. Today's guest is James Menzies, who's the CEO of Coro Energy. Welcome, James. Nice to see you back again.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. Great to be here.
Now, we're primarily here to discuss, in particular, your recent and ongoing drilling campaign in Indonesia. But first of all, for all those people who don't know too much, maybe looking at Coro for the first time, doing their research and so on, maybe you could give us an overview of the company.
Yeah, certainly. We're a small cap E&P listed on AIM. We're looking at Southeast Asia. We're looking to build a business out there through primarily taking on production development assets with some exploration upside around them and building a portfolio of what we call those hubs.
Yeah.
We started in Indonesia. So we have two positions there, one in East Java in something called the Bulu PSC, which has got a gas field called Lengo in it. And then secondly, out here in the West Natuna, which we're going to talk about, with a gas field called Mako, which sits within the Doyong PSC. So we have a lot of these.
Yeah.
Naming gets a little bit confusing, but I'll go slowly with it. And we're also looking at Malaysia, where we're doing some work on a joint study with Petronas, looking at the deep water Sarawak area, which looks quite exciting for us. And we'll certainly be looking to do more in Malaysia. I think that's a source of opportunity.
Well, we'll come back in a few minutes to all the other things. Let's have a look at the Tambak drilling program that you're underway at the moment. We'll have a look at the detail in a minute, but tell us about this Mako field and why you got into it. What excited you about it?
Yeah, I really like the idea of this this field. It's in the basin called the West Natuna Basin, which is quite a mature, prolific producer for Indonesia. There's been a lot of gas and oil produced from this basin, and many of the London-listed oil and gas companies have been in and out. Premier, notably, who have been a big participant there, and a lot of oil produced and a lot of gas produced, which is sold to Singapore. So there's a very big infrastructure in the basin, which came online about 20 years ago, which has got ullage in it, so there's space to take more gas. And obviously Singapore is a big gas buyer. What I like about this particular block is it's shallow gas, it's biogenic gas, which means it's not a classic sort of target for exploration companies. And typically people have been aware that there's a shallow gas zone up here, but haven't really looked at it as a commercial resource. Now, our partners in this project, Conrad Petroleum, drilled a well in 2017 into this gas resource to demonstrate that it can be produced commercially, which was very successful. And so whilst it's always been known, no one's really taken a close look at this. And in fact, there could be other biogenic gas accumulations around in the basin as well, which would be worth looking at. So we've come into the project funding a large chunk of these two wells, and have earned ourselves in the process of 15% equity in the field. And part of this, of course, is some exploration drilling. So we're not only appraising the field, but we're also going to test an exploration prospect. I'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah, and ironically, you drilled Tambak 2 before Tambak 1.
Yes.
So Tambak 1 is the exploration. Yeah. Right.
Can I just, first of all, apologise profusely for the confusing naming conventions, but for reasons known to the Indonesian regulator, they wanted this well called Tambak 2.
All right.
Tambak is actually the name of the prospect we're about to drill.
Right.
Tambak 2 is really an appraisal of the Mako gas field. Right.
So in the last 2 weeks, we've had two announcements, and this would be really helpful to clear all this up. First of all, the first announcement, which said that, confirmed your optimism for the reservoir, moved the reserves up from 3C to 2C and the asset value and everything else. And then at the end of last week, we had the results of the drill stem test, which initially gave people the view that all was not good. But I understand that actually it's quite a lot better than the market perceived it to be. So should we hit those in the way we started?
Okay,
you tell
let's
me
do
how.
that. Okay. Well, first of all, so the appraisal well itself was a big step out of over 13.5 kilometres from that well that Conrad drilled in 2017. So straight away, you are moving a long, long way. Now, when you do that, your biggest concern is, are we going to find the same rocks here that we saw back there? And so our number one risk on this prospect was the reservoir quality. What's going to happen to the reservoir? Because whilst we can see on the seismic a good gas response, and can we demonstrate that with hard well data? And so the first announcement we made when we drilled into the reservoir and ran initial logs, fantastic. We saw gas straight away. We ran logs. Quick look showed excellent. We've got a really well-developed sandstone. And then we took pressure data. And that also confirmed the same pressure system as the original well and the same gas-water contact. So we're in exactly the same system. In fact, if anything, the sands are better developed at Tambak 2 than they are at Mako South 1. So we saw about 33 feet of a gross column, sand, which is slightly better. I think it's about 24 feet in the original well. So we're very, very, very pleased with that. And so it addressed our number one risk. We've got a gas well. This reservoir looks great, and it's the same tank that's gone over a huge distance. So in light of that, of course, when people look at the resources in the field, because it's a very large aerial extent, it's something like 350 square kilometres. It's huge. When people look at resources, of course, they will take well data and input into their model, the porosities, the impermeabilities, and the saturations they see in the hard well data. But if you move away from that, of course, they won't. They'll be more conservative. And so this is when people look at 2C and 3C. In a 3C case, they might say, well, if we had the same reservoir here, over there, then it would look like this. But we don't believe that's necessarily true. So what we see is this well demonstrating more like the 3C case, because now when we do the static modelling all over again, we'll be able to put hard well numbers and very good quality reservoir. And so we'd expect to see those 3C numbers move to 2C. And our internal estimates are roughly 100 BCF of resource will go from 3C to 2C.
And you're still happy with that? As a result, despite the DST?
So come back to the DST in a second. We are very pleased with the results of this well. And I think what we have to discriminate here, and probably useful for investors to hear, is there's two elements to this, what we're doing at the moment. There's operational activity, and there's the rocks. And of course, the rocks had uncertainty by their very nature. What we saw with the well data is that the rocks are great. We're very happy with that. Now, operationally, we plan to flow test the well and then P&A it. That's always been our plan. We weren't going to keep this well as a producer. There's no intent to complete it as that has a lot more cost and a lot more planning goes into that. But so we're going to P&A it anyway. We didn't know what the reservoir quality was going to look like. There was a risk it could have been more silty. And so getting a DST and getting a flow rate was something we planned for and wanted to do. Actually, when we saw it, and so I'll go through what actually happened operationally.
Yes, please,
But in light of that, we already have a well if you remember, Mako South 1 had a flow test. So we have that data already. But so what happened is we ran the logs, proper logs, interpreted them, did the petrophysical analysis, looked at all the pressure data, did the MTD survey, all very good. Now we're going to run the drill stem test. When you run a DST, this is going to be done open hole. So we're not running a liner, we just have a shallow sandstone that we're going to let flow all by itself. And in order to do that, we seal off the reservoir unit because you've got water underneath it, and you want to seal off at the top. So you put a packer at the base of the reservoir, and then you put another one at the top, and you have your well bore in the middle with your pressure sensors, and you let the well flow. In essence, we had a faulty packer that went in at the base, or tried to go in at the base. It didn't go in properly. They pulled out of hole, and as they did that, they swabbed the well. So my best analogy for swabbing a well is if you're with a plunger trying to unblock a sink, and you do this, and water bubbles up and you unblock it. That's kind of what happened, and the well started flowing. So they pulled it out, and it started flowing gas. So we
just
know
what they wanted, yes.
Well, we did want to flow gas, but not in an uncontrolled, not in that situation. So when that happens on a well, you're out in...
Here we go. Shove everything in.
Yes, you have to kill the well effectively, and to do that, you put heavy mud. So you put mud with a
Yeah.
greater density that gives a bigger pressure than the reservoir, which pushes all the gas back down.
Hence the formation damage.
Correct.
Yeah.
And as part of that, to make it heavy, you put barite in the mud.
Yeah,
And so roughly, without getting too technical, the reservoir pressure's at around 9.1 pounds per gallon in terms of mud weight. I think we went up to about 11.2. So we had a big pressure in the well and heavy barite mud,
Right.
and this is a very permeable reservoir.
Yeah.
Permeabilities were up to a maximum of about 3 darcies, but I mean, 200 to 3 is I think what we've measured, but they're roughly around 1. I mean, this is very permeable.
But when you put all that mud and the barite and everything else, and you were never going to get a DST.
Well, we hoped we could still do it, but what happened is the permeability, of course, is a measure of how easily things move through the reservoir, liquids, gases, whatever, and so that mud has gone straight in. We ran a scraper on the side of the wellbore to try and clean it up. I tried 2 DSTs, it wasn't happening, and I think about 60 barrels of kill mud had gone into the reservoir, which over a 30 foot zone is quite a lot of fluid. So yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't get it to go. Now, so we're disappointed by that. We'd have loved to have a flow rate, because looking at the petrophysics, this well would have at least done what the last well did, if not better.
Yeah.
And to come out with a good flow rate would have been fantastic news for everybody. We already have the flow data from the last well, so this is very much in the nice to have category.
Yeah.
And so when I go back to, is there something wrong with the rocks? Absolutely not. Is there an operational issue? Well, sadly there was with the packer, but that's life. These things happen operationally. But I think fundamentally the value, the quality of the asset and the value of it isn't denuded at all. This is this is what happens in the oil field at times. So, great shame.
So basically, quite a lot of my readers, and certainly ever since I told them that I was speaking to you this morning, said that there's a lot more positive news in the RNS than the market actually perceived, and I think that's important. And I think it's been great that you've been able to explain it to us as you have, because otherwise you could have just looked at it just bare paper and sort of thought, okay, it didn't work. But
well, I think if there's a problem with the reservoir, then of course we'd have been much more concerned about it. But the reservoir is great, and clearly there's a gas well there.
Right, now we go back to Tambak 1.
Yes.
Now, the rig is the very same rig is now mobilising to Tambak 1, and I understand that spud is imminent. How far away is it? Is it comparable Tambak 2? Is it looking at the same things? But it's more important, it's an exploration well rather than an appraisal well.
This is an interesting well, and so both of these are interesting wells. But first of all, this one because it's so far away from the original well. But now we're going to the northeast side of the field. And as you mentioned, there's 2 objectives. There's an appraisal of the gas field, and there's an exploration element. First of all, on the appraisal. So what we want to do, we're going, again, it's a long way from where we've just drilled Tambak 1. We are P&Aing the well at the moment. We'll be moving the rig probably tomorrow. It'll be a day to set up again. I think by the end of the week, probably the weekend, we'll have spudded.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do with this appraisal is we want to find the edge of the gas accumulation. Now, where we've drilled already, what we see is a reservoir, good reservoir quality sands in the gas zone with the gas water contact below them.
Yeah.
So we're inferring the gas water contact from the pressure readings that we take. What we'd love to see is the gas water contact in the reservoir itself. So you've got nice clean sand with a log response, and there it is. There's our transition zone. And that's what we're looking for. So we want to find the water.
You do?
Yes.
Yeah. Quite often, the old water contact. No.
I know, but when you're praising something, you want to find the limits of it. So that's an important objective. And so we're looking to find the channel sands with gas on water. That's what we want. Then we will be going down into the Tambak prospect.
Yeah.
Now, this is a different animal completely. So this is a more conventional rollover. It's an inversion structure that sits under the Mako field. These things have been drilled before along trend here.
All right.
And they haven't worked in just locally to where we're drilling. They have worked elsewhere in the basin, so it's a common play. And this is why we have 45% chance of success, is that other lookalikes haven't worked, but this is a different one because it has a seismic response, which would model as a gas accumulation in sandstones, which we haven't seen in the other one. So they don't show that AVO response. This one does. So something different's happened here, which is encouraging.
Yeah.
So given that we're just going to have to deepen the well by a couple of 100 meters, we may as well have a go, is the way we look at it. And it's got big upside potential.
And given you're quite a lot further away, you don't have any problems in terms of, you talked earlier about selling the gas, Singapore, or the usual pipelines.
Yeah.
Everything is up there as well, so you don't have a problem. Good. I think we've managed to handle 1 and 2 now, and in fact that area, I think I can't imagine that anyone could want to know any more about it than we now know. But we also, I wouldn't mind a quick word. You mentioned at the beginning in your overview that you've got 2 or 3 other assets on the go at the moment. Bulu, GSA, FID on the go, and the Block 2A.
Yeah.
Quick run through on those?
Yeah, sure. Bulu, it's really progress on the gas sales agreement that's the next step. So nothing's happening operationally. But there's a lot going on with the gas buyer and the group who are selling the gas. So that's going to be our next objective. It's quite an involved process to get a GSA done, and clearly it's being done with the Indonesian authorities as well. So there's a sort of 3-way conversation going on. I would expect to see a GSA signed there hopefully maybe by the end of the year, but certainly first quarter will be away with that. That will be done, and then we're looking at FID thereafter.
FID after that.
So it's a nice asset. It's a good gas market around there in East Java. Big demand for gas. It's quite well understood. We've got 3D, we've got well data, we get test data, core data, you name it.
So any sort of discussions on the GSA front are not sort of problematic on pricing or anything? It's just a question of getting the bits.
There's always a negotiation, Malcolm. As ever.
But there is demand. There's good demand in the area. So
there's multiple buyers who are after the gas. You work with the Indonesian authorities to, they kind of encourage you towards certain buyers who they think, they would like to see the gas go to, and then clearly there's a discussion around price.
Good.
So that's moving on. On Malaysia, 2 things to mention really. One is that Block 2A, which is it's an exploration play, but we would like to convert that into a license. So we're taking steps to do that right now. We're completing our work on the subsurface work on it, which looks very exciting. I don't want to labour it too much, but we like the look of it. The other thing in Malaysia is, of course, they have lots and lots of small discovered resources around, and very few companies who are of a size to do something with it. Yeah. And to me, that's like a huge opportunity for someone like ourselves. So I think if you can get in the door, there's a big prize there to be had. It kind of leads you on to what's going on in the region, because there's another source of opportunity appearing, particularly in Malaysia, and that is there's a big changeover in the companies in Southeast Asia.
Yes, I remember you saying before that
it's
all changing, and you're in the new guard.
Yes, and what we're seeing is the majors are all withdrawing. So Exxon have now got their assets for sale in Malaysia. As you know, Murphy have sold out, Newfield have sold out. I think we're going to see Conoco possibly do something. Hess are going to be withdrawing. Yeah. So there's all these larger companies are all leaving, and when you look at who's arriving, there are some brownfield specialists. Perenco's in the region. They haven't made a move yet, but I think they will. Yeah. OMV have come in and done a deal with Sapura. So there's a bit of a changeover. Yeah. And there's a big room for someone like Coro to come in, both for the greenfield and the brownfield. Yeah. So,
and financing, all the bits and pieces that you've already discussed, you're all financed for that with your various debt and equity, and everything is looking good.
Yeah, we're funded for the drilling. That's obviously our biggest ticket right now, which we did with the financing we talked about last time. The other element we've gone through is on the Bulu acquisition, we rephased that. So rather than write an $8 million check up front, it's going to be 2.5.
Oh yes, I remember. Yeah,
then 1.5, and then 2.5, and 1.5. So we spread it out over several years, which is good for a company with a small balance sheet like ourselves. I would kind of say, the last results we had at the interims that just came out, I think it's $11.5 million of cash in the bank, and we've made a small bit of money go quite a long way, which is a facet of Southeast Asia at the moment. Is those things they're not expensive.
No. Well, that's good. So you're all nicely settled there.
Yeah, we're good there.
I was going to ask you about M&A, but in your comments about Malaysia, you've to a certain extent covered it already. I mean, given that you made an outlandish but opportunist bid for Ophir
Yes.
with $1 billion of debt or something at the time, we know that your experience in the area speaks for itself. M&A, what are you looking at? I mean, don't tell me exactly what you're looking at, but tell me you are looking at stuff in,
Yes.
in different areas.
Yeah, no, for sure. And as I say, I think the changeover of asset ownership is quite stark, and it's I think next year is going to be a big year on M&A in Southeast Asia. To date, it's been a little bit sporadic. So we had the Santos deal, which Ophir picked up. Ophir itself, but these were large packages that came along once in a blue moon. It's not like the North Sea where you're seeing much more liquidity in the asset market.
Yeah.
However, the macro backdrop's not dissimilar in that the majors are withdrawing and there's new players, whether they're indigenous companies or service companies that are mutating into E&P, or little independents, making their presence felt, and innovative ways of doing deals. It's not necessarily the old way we used to do them. So that trend is very much alive in Southeast Asia. And I'd expect to see the majors' assets will change hands. There's going to be new owners coming in and new ways of doing things. And absolutely we want to be part of all that. Yeah. So we are on the lookout for large asset packages. We're also on the lookout for small ones. Yeah. I mean, I think, we can be opportunistic, absolutely. We do have a strategy, but we're not banging the table being dogmatic about the whole thing. So, I would expect to see us do something there, for sure. Good.
We've blown over the time limit already, but that's no surprise because you very kindly put us all straight about Tambak 2 in particular. Just to sort of wrap up everything that we've talked about, I always ask the same thing, but given what you've seen so far and what you've talked to me about your current portfolio and the M&A, where would you like to see Coro in 12 to 18 months time?
Well, at the beginning I mentioned these sort of portfolio of hubs, and we've got East Java, we've done something in West Natuna, we're looking at something in Sarawak, but I would like to see us populate that with a couple more positions and build out the ones we have. So commercializing those positions and establishing ourselves in a few, in 2 or 3 more new ones would be a massive success for us. Yeah. We'd like some production. Yeah. So we're definitely on the lookout for that.
Is that easy to find in that part of the world? Everyone says everywhere you go that production is difficult to find.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true.
You might have to pay up for it, but
yes,
it's just difficult to find.
It's hard, but we're well experienced at if it's there to be had, we'll find it.
Yeah. Listen, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I know that the viewers appreciate it, and especially since I think you've got a 2-hour spell with your shareholders this afternoon or something coming up. You very much get on the road and speak to the shareholders. You do lunches with various different people. So I really appreciate your time in coming in today. So thank you very much indeed, James.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Today my guest has been James Menzies, who's the CEO of Coro Energy. This has been Malcolm Graham-Wood on Core Finance TV CEO interview. Thanks for watching. Bye now.